Hello and good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Is this Toby?
This is Toby.
Toby, how are you today?
I'm excellent, thanks. How about yourself?
Absolutely fantastic. Excited to talk with you because your writing is really about today. I mean, there's so many things inside all that she brings that I know people are going to create a conversation around it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's the idea. Yeah, it's about today. It's also about some universal themes that have been around as long as we have, actually.
That sounds like something my preacher would say. He says, how you are today is what your grandfather did back in his day. And it's like, well, okay, I'll give that.
Yeah, and my experience is in no way entirely unique. It's just that I love to write and I love to express myself, and I thought I'd share my take on how these things affect us, how these things that come up in our life.
That's interesting that you say that, your take, because that's one of the things that I've been talking about a lot on iHeartRadio is the interpretation that we have of a relationship. For instance, like what my experiences were with my mother are completely different than what my sister would do. It would be two completely different books.
Absolutely. Yeah, we all have our own experience, for sure.
Yeah.
Even within our own families.
I was going to say, to write about family drama, my God, that's going back and revisiting.
It sure is. And, we all have family stories to one extent or another that we want to remember, and maybe some that we want to forget, but they make us who we are, whether we want to admit it or not. And I think in my case, they're almost all worth remembering. Some are painful, but you learn from those things, and so in a way, you don't want to ever forget about them.
Yeah. You just spoke my street right there. You don't want to forget about them, because that's one of the things that my mother didn't write, my father didn't write. I have nothing. So therefore, as a writer, I'm giving something to the future generations so they can at least go through these experiences that we have. Exactly.
And one of the things I had in mind in writing these books was leaving something behind. We're all going to be gone sooner or later. It's a comforting thought that maybe we leave something behind that somebody can pick up to remember us and maybe learn something from. And I think mostly about my kids and my grandkids and family going forward down the line. I just here's something they can pick up and read if it's still around 100 years from now. It may well not be, but let's hope it is.
Yeah. Replacing despair with hope, gratitude, and determination. I love that.
It sounds pretty good, doesn't it? It's not always easy to do.
No.
But that's the goal, right? It's so easy to be consumed by despair. Let's face it, we live in a difficult time right now. There's a lot of different things pushing and pulling us in different directions. And I think it's imperative that, whatever your faith, secular or religious or whatever makes you think about the larger issues of life and what it's all about, it's really important to try to stay positive. And I think I put my protagonist, Matthew Banks, who was introduced in my first book, All That She Brings, I put him in all these crazy situations, some of which I have direct experience with, some of which were fabricated, but I put him in these situations because he needs to find a way to get out of them and not be consumed by them. And sometimes he's consumed by them, but overall, he's going to rise above them. He's going to prevail, and that's the goal.
Yeah. In a very creative way, aren't you teaching readers how to locate their own healing?
Absolutely. What I try to do is create situations that, just about anybody can relate to: death of a parent, infidelity, what have you. I think these things happen to all of us, and I wanted to show that, yes, it's painful. Yes, it can be overwhelming, but you got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. And parents that mistreat the kids. I left home at 18. I never went back. I wasn't going to go back, man. And it's not that I was badly mistreated. I just feel like I was misunderstood.
Yeah, as most kids do at one point or another. I had a little different experience with my dad dying when I was 17.
Wow.
It was kind of like leaving home. I had a pretty idyllic life leading up to that point, which made it such a shock. I didn't know these things happened or could happen to my family. All of a sudden, 3 brothers and my mother were left alone and try to figure things out after our dad, who had been sort of the quintessential patriarch, just keeled over one day, and we never saw him again. And that's a real dose of reality. And so, he was gone, and life went on. We were all in shock for a while, but life went on, and we figured it out. We all had struggles, but we figured it out.
Do you think being the author has helped you out? Because, one of the things I learned from Julia Cameron with The Artist Way is that, clean out the closet, man. Get it out there and get new energy moving in.
Absolutely. Yeah. You've got to move forward. And, books have been written about this, the stages of grief. And they make it sound as though it's a linear process. It's nice to think you can clear it out and move on, but you're going to have to wallow in it for a while.
Yeah.
Just to understand the depth of it and understand what it's doing to you, because you'll never fully understand it, but you need to live with it. You need to sit with it. And you don't get over it, you learn to live with it. Mm-hmm. You move on in a way that you're different, and hopefully you're wiser. And you're stronger in the sense that, the next time something like this happens that takes you by surprise, it doesn't, knock you off your feet.
The lessons of life. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm a daily writer, and I've been doing it for 30 years, is the fact that I can go back into those days and see how I handled certain situations.
Sure. That's right. And also know that you can get through it.
Absolutely.
They say, entrepreneurs say fail early and fail often. And we fail at life, and failure at life is where we learn that's where we get the real work done. And I'm not talking about failing to deal with something, but, when things go wrong, it's sort of a failure in the sense of your idyllic expectation. And once that is interrupted, you've got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and make sense of it and turn it around.
Oh my God, yeah. I wish people could do, like what I'll do is if I trip, I stumble, or I feel like I'm in a moment of failure, it becomes a podcast episode, because it means I'm not the only one that's going through this. Somebody else is going to listen to this too.
Yeah, thank God, right? If we were alone, we'd be in real trouble. And the old misery loves company axiom.
So what is your writing discipline? I every morning when I get up, I have to write first. What is yours?
I like to do that as well. I think I'm at my clearest of mind when I get out of bed and throw some water in my face and have a cup of coffee, and it's quiet. I'm an early riser. I'm up at 5:30 or 6, and my wife sleeps a little bit later. The kids are all gone, so the only thing I have to contend with is my dog, who's usually at my feet. But if I can get an hour or two first thing in the morning, generally that is some of the more straightforward writing I get done during the day. I'll come back in the afternoon when the house is empty again, and maybe have a couple hours mid-afternoon where I can knock out a couple thousand words. But I do write every day. Sometimes it's less than that, but I think it's important to keep that rhythm going.
Oh, so true. And if I walk into a day and I don't have ink stains on my hands because I'm a dipper, my God, it's like, okay, why didn't you write? Okay, why did you write pretty today? What's going on here? Why am I not seeing any marks?
So you write longhand?
I do.
Oh, good for you. A lot of purists believe that's the only way to do it.
Wow.
But I learned to type in high school because I was a journalism major, so I've never written out longhand. Yep.
I definitely type as well, because that's the way it was when I wasn't going to be in radio unless I knew how to type. So where can people go to find out more about you, Toby, and really dive into what you bring to the world?
Well, with the help of my daughter, I set up a website, and it's simple. It's tobybrooks.com. That's BROOKES, TOBY, BROOK. Many people forget the E. It's ES.com, and that'll take you to my website, which has links to both books, and they're on Amazon, they're on Kindle, they're on Barnes & Noble, there are other places that you can order. But that's the easiest way, and it also talks about there's some biographical information. There's some quotes and reviews. So that would be helpful. That would be the first place to go.
Excellent. Well, please come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you, Toby.
Well, that's terrific, Errol. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
Okay, thanks. You too.